All right, guys, good morning. This is another day that God has provided. It is 11th of December 2025. I'm so appreciative about everything that is going on. Of course, our work is proceeding. And I've managed to do a video in the morning because actually there's a break between what yesterday I did clear my task. So I'm letting another team to finish their part, then I'll be joining them after maybe 1 hour. So welcome to my channel once more, and I'm so appreciative for those who have kept watching my channel. Thank you so much for keeping it real, because with you, that's how I'm able to forge ahead with my channel. I really appreciate also God for giving me life and allowing me to see another day and come about here to do my video. It's not easy. There are so many people actually over the year, and even just a day or two, who possibly thought that they would be fine, but unfortunately something happened. They are no longer there, or they are partly maybe in a situation that is traumatizing. So I appreciate God for all that, and I also thank God that he was able to enhance my channel to actually get monetized this year, even though earning has not yet been a thing to achieve. But I'm hoping that sooner or later I'll be acquiring what I should. So into the political reaction, I'm starting with the political reaction, then I'll see whether I'll get time to do a social reaction later. So into a political reaction, of course, Rigathi Gachagua had an interview with NTV, and he spit a lot of stuff. He actually promised that the dance that was engaged in by-election was just a minor dance, and he did not want to dance himself lame because he's preparing for the main dance. Do you agree with that? And still, he said that Malava and Bere by-elections were a sham, as no fair elections would have been conducted in the two places as a result of the goons whom the government used to molest and frustrate both the voters and the candidates. Of course, Panyako and Kariuki on the other end. So, of course, as we go on, do you trust what Gachagua is saying, or you think it's just, a kind of excuse he's giving for the situation that met him? Now, of course, Gachagua kept saying that it is not a DCP candidate who vied in Mbere, and he considered Moses Kuria as a wheelbarrow, part of the wheelbarrow that has been planted in Central by the president. And he indicates that while Kuria seems to be talking against the president, he's just with him, because if he let that candidate not run in Mbere, then his votes, the votes that went to Mbui, would have gone to Kariuki, and possibly the situation would not be the same. Maybe JB Muturi and his allies such as Wahome and the rest could not have afforded to actually do what they did. Hello, Kelly Sharp, welcome in. Thank you so much for showing up. Spyro Boy, thank you for showing up also. So I'm into a political analysis. Thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate your presence. May God bless you. So let's get to this interview that was conducted by KTN, and it's amazing. I love listening to those interviews and analyzing them, because it tells us more than we can get it in other settings. When you go to the settings where the political, people are rallying, all they do is to talk about the misfits or failures of others, but they don't talk about their own initiatives and what they think. So this is a good opportunity that Gachagua actually came up to talk about some things. So let me just check on one of the interviews, and I want us to quickly do an analysis of this. What do you think about Kenya? And so far, of course, for those who don't know, there are so many people who have been deported again from America. Of course, about 10 Kenyans and several Somalis, among other people. So, of course, this is one of the topics that is discussed highly on social platforms. But meanwhile, let's talk about politics through checking on that interview before we proceed to any other affair. So let's begin by checking on this interview. and analyze it one by one. So here it is. Live from KTN, this is what we saw Gachagua saying as a game plan that he has for 2027.
Beat up personally in the company of police and goons, overrun a polling station, beat up the agents, beat up the clerks, the presiding officer, and went ahead to stuff ballots into the ballot box. And the IBC is unconcerned. And in Narok, myself, I was met with a lot of violence by police on the 24th during the last day of the campaign. Despite us having a scheduled rally in Narok town, the police barricaded all roads leading to Narok to stop me from getting to Narok to campaign for my candidate of Las Masconde. But as it were, you know, I'm a villager. And a villager in his normal environment is very good. So I know my way around the villages. And the Maasai are also very good villagers. So with the help of the Maasais, they were able to map some routes for me to get to Narok. So Matulele, and I go to Narok in a helmet because stones were raining on me. Like bullets were directed to my car. There was just too much violence. So the by-elections really cannot tell you exactly the mood of the country politically because the atmosphere of those by-elections was not conducive for a free and fair election. Mr. Gachagua, you've raised allegations in terms of the violence that was meted on many during the by-election. You say that there was stuffing of ballot boxes, and with it one would hope that you would take these complaints to court or raise them with IEBC. Have you raised these with IEBC? What is the response? Are you going to court to challenge elections? As you say, there are problems. I personally, where I had candidates for DCP, I'm not going to court. I put 5 candidates, one in Magarini, and we performed very well. We were credible second. Despite the irregularities, I think we did very well, and I'm happy with the outcome. I had a candidate in Puruko Ward in Kajiado, a seat previously held by ODM. UDA was number 1. We came very close by, and ODM was a distant third, and I think we did very well. In Narok town, despite the violence, despite the voter suppression, despite voter bribery, in making it almost difficult to carry out the by-election, DCP won and beat everybody hands down. Again, we beat ODM, UDA, and all those other parties in Kariobangi North, in Nairobi, as cosmopolitan area. Again, we did very well in Kisa East, in Quisero constituency in Kakamega. I think ODM was number 9, UDA was number 10. Again, we emerged victorious. And what it means is that, since we formed DCP was formed just the other day. It's only 7 months old. It's a very young party. But out of the 24 by-elections, we won 3. And to shame our detractors, William RUTO and company, they have been spreading propaganda that DCP is a tribal party, it's a party for the mountain. We were in Quisero. Quisero is 600 kilometers from the mountain. There are no mountain people who live in Kakamega. It's a new nation who live there. We were here in Nairobi in a cosmopolitan environment where all communities are. We won here in Nairobi. In Narok, our candidate was a Ma. It was not a Kikuyu. And the Ma people and the other communities that live there, subscribe to the philosophy of DCP, of listening to the people.
All right, guys. So, when you listen to that interview, Rigathi Gachagua is actually justifying the fact that regardless of the violence that was meted against the opposition, they still shined. Whether they were number 1 or 2 or 3, they still shined. He's justifying this by referring to the party as a very young, having existed 6 years, 6 a month only, compared to this DPA, which has existed maybe in the previous 5 years. And then when you look at ODM, which has existed for 20 years. So realizing, actually, this tells us that ODM is going down slowly by slowly, and that's real. ODM is dying a natural death because they have really had to hang on DPA as a party that is in the broad-based kind of arrangement. Kelly Sharp is asking, is he running for president? Of course, currently he is. He is indicating that he's one of the candidates running for presidential seat, even though they have to agree in the United Opposition, because United Opposition has candidates such as Kalonzo Musyoka. They also have the other one is, I don't know whether Matiang'i joined them. I'm not so sure about Matiang'i because, of course, they work together at some point. We find them in a same setting. We also have this Eugene Wamalwa, and we have Anatembea. So all these people are working together as united opposition. They actually seem to be forming an umbrella whereby one of them will be finally picked, and then they look for a running mate to vie for the position of the president in 2027. So they have not yet announced who will do it, but each one of them is declaring themselves a presidential candidate, a potential presidential candidate. So we are just waiting to see who exactly will be picked out of the entire. Though I can see many people are favoring Kalonzo Musyoka. I don't know whether they are doing it because they feel that he's neutral compared to Rigathi Gachagua, who has had cases recently after the impeachment. That is not even cases, but the impeachment process that was actually considering him not to be a suitable person. When it comes to Eugene Wamalwa and, of course, Natembea, I don't see the possibility of them being picked for this. I'm sorry to say that, but that's just my view. All right, so let's continue listening to what Gachagua was saying now. The first thing he has said here is that DCP is still a strong party, given that it was formed 7 months old, while compared to these other parties, which at least makes sense. Indeed, it makes sense. But then I just wonder, when he keeps referring to his party alone in moments when he's discussing, we've heard him say that many times, and he says that even though there is united opposition, each person who stands for their party should be there to stand with their own party, and not actually to expect that Rigathi Gachagua will be selling their small parties. So even for him, he has wheelbarrows as well, because these other parties stand to be wheelbarrows. But now he claimed in this interview that Moses Kuria is part of the team of RUTO because he retired, or rather resigned from his post, not to go and support the winning of the opposition or any other candidate, but to support the winning of the government. And of course, we have had so many allegations coming up with very many vloggers doing it. I don't know. What is your thought? Do you think Moses Kuria retired to go help William Ruto to win in the mountain? And is it real that William Ruto has so many wheelbarrows in the mountain that he's going to use to bring them down and divide their votes? Because openly we know in Kenya the mountain has been having block voting. Now this time round it doesn't look like they'll have such kind of voting, because we have people with vested interests, and they are into doing what they'll be told by the government, and possibly the promises that they are given will matter. And that is why we've seen Kindiki, for example, people like Roko, we have seen Kimani Chungwa, among others, are strongly standing with the government and supporting it for whatever cause in running their items. Now let's listen to more from Rigathi Gachagua and see what he said.
There's a simple way to protect your privacy online and get full access to world.
Other areas where say DP in Borough, that is, you've distanced yourself or you want to go to court, yes or no? But how then do you distance yourself from United Opposition if all along you have been speaking the same language? Is it a question of where I did not have a member, it is none of my business? How then does that speak? Everybody united, and how united it is. Everybody is distinct. We are united in purpose, in terms of getting a single presidential candidate to face William Ruto. That we are united. But we are not united in the nitty-gritties, in the day-to-day operations of every political party. I went to Bere to help the Democratic Party, but they are in charge of their own operations. The DP leader, Justin Muturi, has told me they are going to court, and I wish them well. And it's important that they do. When you support him, as it goes, I don't need to support. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, so I cannot help. But I think they should go to court because what happened in Bere is unacceptable. From my own view, the UDL men who are recipients of the cash transfer program, about 7,000 elderly people in Bere were intimidated by chiefs, so they went to vote for that candidate under duress. And I want to tell our elderly, this cash transfer program is not a gift from William Ruto. It is money that is voted for by the nationals. Does not depend on the goodwill of William Ruto for you to continue receiving this money. I want to tell them as we go to the general election, because the chiefs were called the other day and told of the success of Bere and Malava, how the chiefs and Mbakumi intimidated elderly people who received the cash transfer program to vote for the UDA candidate, and they were totally people to tell their mothers and their fathers that fund, that program is not a gift by William Ruto to the elderly people. It is a government program. These are funds that are voted for and appropriated in the National Assembly. They are from public funds, and they don't have to vote for.
Now, of course, Gachagua had to reveal some things about what happened during the by-election. All we knew was this aspect of intimidation in the lens of the police being given civilian, allowed to dress as civilians and go molest people. And we heard a lot about goons, but the reality was that those were not goons. Of course, we are not standing for a certain party, but why would the government actually be so intimidated that they decide to use goons to actually create a lot of chaos and coerce people into voting for them? Why would they, for example, take what Gachagua is saying, the transfer program, the cash transfer program, which is being conducted on elderly people? Of course, every elderly person in a country has a right to receive the money for old age. You know, they are supposed to receive those funds, and that is not a gift. Actually, it's money taken out of the tax money, and that is their money. So it's unfortunate from what Gachagua was revealing in that interview that some of the older people were actually directly addressed by the chiefs and told that they have to go vote for the party that the president belongs to because they have received the cash transfer aspect of old age, which is unfortunate. Actually, that's kind of blackmail. It's kind of blackmail. At the same time, we can say maybe psychological and kind of a situation that would create, as a cocoon kind of to the people, because making people to be coerced into doing what they don't want to do just because they are being forced into it is unfortunate. Do they wish their generations, like the grandchildren or great-grandchildren, to have the life that is actually happening? Do they really want the government to be what it is? That is what matters. It's not supposed to be a situation where you're just voting because you have been told to vote and you don't know the reason why you are. And voter education is very important. At the same time, I normally have seen a lot of people believing that CDF is money given by an MP or a governor of the day. And that is not the situation. We've seen so many places whereby our MPs go to schools and have to parade students on assembly, and teachers and even parents are called and they are told that, do you know it's because of me that this money has come to you? I have given you this money for fees. And I know that now from January, because of the fee, the increment in fees in schools, many parents are going to be intimidated in a manner that whenever CDF comes and they receive, all the time the MPs are going to use that opportunity to campaign for themselves. That's unfortunate in Kenya. Anyway, let's continue to listen to this. So of course we've heard from Rigathi Gachagua that JP Muturi is willing to go to court and denounce that winning of Wamudende in Mbeere North. Do you think they will even win? Because the problem with our justice system, even though we have seen some situations where we've seen transparency in Maraga and some fewer cases, but there's still a lot of lack of transparency. Our system is a bit translucent to some point. But let's listen to more.
They were just selling their candidate. When you spent 800 million in the constituency, that's what I want to tell these UDA fellows. They are celebrating nothing. During the general election, they were their own. Kila mtu anakuwa kwake, anang'ang'ana kwake. Mtu anasubiri, there will be no police to help you. You will have to go and fight your own battle. As we just wrap up the conversation around that, there is the aspect that is most clearly part of United Opposition, because we saw him present a candidate through GACHAGUA, and in your own deduction, would you say that affected in one way or another? It did. You see, when the elders of Mbeere approached me, it's because of the clan dynamics. Newton Karis and Boy, the one who was in DCP, who went to Korea, come from one clan. And the elders told me, if we have the two candidates, it's not good. You know, the other guy, the one who is said to have won, comes from a different clan. So they asked me to step down this guy so that this clan can have one candidate. And it made a lot of sense because I understand the Mbeere people and the clan dynamics. Right? Because I'm from the mountain, I understand those things. So I withdrew the candidate. But then the government approached Korea. Korea is part of the RUTO administration. He's not in... No, he's part of it. He's part of the Chama Chaka. This guy got 2,500 votes. Those votes, because of the clan dynamics, would have gone to the Newton Karis. Yeah? Despite the theft of the election and the voter suppression and the bribery.
So guys, Gachagua came out to blame Kuria squarely, that Kuria, while he was whistleblowing about the aspect of cheating, or rather rigging, voter bribery, and the use of force in Mbeere, he was purposed, planted intentionally by the government to actually make sure that they win elections in Mbeere North. And so he reduced the gap between Kariuki and this other candidate, Wamudende, because Mbui actually now went away with some votes. Of course, political process is dynamic. Not dynamic, but strategic. You're supposed to be strategic in how you plan and actually marshal or whip up several aspects, whether it is racial, class, a tribe, and maybe a clan aspects. People go to that extent. So the by-elections, of course, the MPs, the strategy was to whip up the clan aspect into winning. However, Mbui now migrated and was used by... that is Moses Kuria, to lead to the loss of DP in Mbeere North. Now, let's get to more stuff out of this.
Capitation, how that has been a problem in the country. In the teachers, the JSS teachers, senior school teachers have warned that they would down tools. And as we talk about the agenda and talking about education, you say that who wants to be president of the Republic of Kenya. This United Opposition wants to form government. What is the agenda on fixing thing that we see today, especially in the education sector? What promise do you have to the parents and children of the people of Kenya? Thank you. I'm very happy that you have asked me this question. William Ruto says we have no agenda. We have a very serious agenda. Very serious agenda for this country. And I'm happy to have this discussion tonight. And let me tell the people of Kenya before I go into the agenda. I've had the president going every meeting saying that the problem of Kenya is tribalism. That's a lie. It's a false narrative to run away from the real issues of discussion in Kenya. We have no problem of tribalism in this country. There is no community fighting any other community. There is no community that has a problem with another community. The problems that bedevil Kenya is theft of public resources. The problem of this country is mismanagement of public resources. The problem of this country is not tribalism. It is the sale of national assets. The problem of this country is not tribalism. It is abductions and extrajudicial killings. The problem of this country cannot be tribalism. How does tribalism cause extrajudicial killings? How does tribalism cause the sale of public assets? What the president has done, because he has messed the country completely, he is creating a false narrative about tribalism and cohesion. Oh, we need to bring the country together. This country is united against theft, is united against corruption. This country is united against theft of public resources to corruption. Let's talk about what I'm saying is, as I want us to discuss the problems of Kenya, but I want to put it from onset that tribalism is not a problem in this country. And I'm very disappointed that even very serious political commentators and very serious newspapers have actually brought the narrative by William RUTO that the problem is tribalism, so that we don't discuss the real issues of how he has made this country in 3 years. You have asked about education.
Work is a pain in the
All right, guys. So when Rigathi Gachagua was asked about education and the agenda, he began first by blaming the narrative of tribalism. Personally, I've actually talked about this aspect of tribalism. Even if people keep away from it, it will always be, tribes are there. Kenya generally is a country of so many tribes. And therefore, whether you are tribal or not, when it comes to matters of importance to the country, tribalism should not be a problem. Because whether you like it or not, at some point when you are leaving, somebody will ask you about your tribe, or they'll try to actually find out your surname. That is a common aspect. Pius Machongo, welcome in the house. Subscribe to the channel and let's go into the debate of who carries the day, 1 term or 2 term. Okay. Anyway, so Gachagua says that he does not see Kenya as having a problem of tribalism. Majorly, the problem is mismanagement of funds, corruption, and disregarding growth, or rather theft, that is happening left and center. And I can agree with that. If only all people could see it that way, things would be different. Unfortunately, some people don't see that. They actually create a philosophy about what the politicians are telling us, and they follow that, which is unfortunate, because for them, they will say that this person, I hate them most because they are tribalists. Then you ask them how. They'll not tell you. They'll not give you the story. However, even those who are pretending not to be tribalists, go back to how they assign duties to individuals, and you'll be surprised. You will be surprised even when you are working in an institution, someone who talks about not being tribal, when they come to the trustees, they trust people who are from their tribe or from their clans or something like that. Or they even know that certain people are easy to actually follow they are gullible, while others are not, others are resistant, and all that. All those narratives exist in institutions where we work, and you cannot avoid it. Currently, there is a national activity I'm conducting. And you cannot avoid to have people talking about this and that, their tribe and this tribe. And of course, we understand as Kenyans, that is part of the narrative. When you meet together several tribes, will say, this kind of people, they normally do this. This kind of people do this. We know those who can serve visitors well and cook delicious food. We know those who are mean in preparing food. We know those who play the best music. We know those who are good in administration and all that. But the diversity in Kenya helps us to come together. And therefore, of course, there is no party that can pick one tribe and survive with it. In Kenya, for you to do any politics, you must pick people from different tribes. However, when it comes to engagement of individuals, final end in higher positions, you realize that people become so specific. They kind of eliminate some tribes while favor others. They favor their own tribes more than others. And that's the reality. Even if you look currently, if you put on a lens and check currently in the government, Check in the previous government also, Uhuru Kenyatta. Go back to Mwai Kibaki. Go back to Moi. All those administrations have been tribal in how they have been assigning duties. They'll of course engage some few people from other tribes, but the reality is that tribalism has been part of the problem. I may not really fully agree with Gachagua that tribalism is not a problem. It is. Actually, in Kenya, tribalism is part of our problem, but not the major problem. Currently, the problem is economic growth. And I believe economic growth is being eaten by those people who are looting so much and also creating rooms whereby they'll easily collect money from us, but we don't understand where that money is going to. We also have problems in relation to the burden the citizen is carrying. Like the tax, we have so much tax around us, and the only promise is that we are creating for future generations. So am I here to live today while suffering only to make for the future generations? That is the problem. The problem is we have people who are looting as you struggle to even build as a normal semi-permanent house. For them, they are raising stories left and right. They are even buying vehicles, even though they came from zero. Currently, do we have any civil servant? You start work and in 2 years you are able to raise martial rent. At the same time, you are having a poshy lifestyle, and you just nourish so easily, not even slow. When it comes to civil servants, you struggle a lot. You will start your work, sometimes you have to take loans for you to survive. You will have to battle with life and all that. But it has come to our notice that in Kenya, politicians are finding an easy way. They just have to create false projects. They have to actually engage maybe the MCS and allow them to be looting on tenders. They be supplying themselves in the names of other proxy companies that are not known. They start a project that they don't complete but pay themselves fully. We have seen this situation from the Isiolo governor. We saw the Busia governor. We also saw the Kericho governor and the Nairobi governor. We've seen this. And these people are protected because of the network under which many of them really have protection from other major leaders. Maybe like formerly, Sakaja was protected a lot by Baba. When you come to Busia, I don't know who protected him. You come to Kericho, I think he was being protected so much by RUTO. When you come to Isiolo, I don't know what happened. But so many of these governors and even MPs and whatever, they are looting left and right. They are also creating tenders for themselves in county governments. They are not even allowing young people or women to actually grow up and use those opportunities to enhance their lives. It is so hard to get a tender in the county government, actually, even if you are trying. And these people just award themselves and survive. Now, the worst thing that has happened is now insecurity that is being created and violence. But anyway, let's continue listening to this. I wanted to listen to the part of education and the strategy that Gachagua has.
Education, free secondary education, strengthen their competence by involving all stakeholders. You cannot do those without talking to the teachers, without talking to the parents, without talking to the pupils and the students. These are things that we must do. And again, we must invest as a country on our teachers. We must remunerate them well. These teachers who are in internship, we must confirm them to P&P so that they can also earn a dignified living. How do you get teachers to teach the young people when themselves they are very uncomfortable, when they have no food in their house, when they have no bus fare, when they have no bus fare to get to school? Again, we must digitize our learning system. Most of these programs we have introduced, nobody prepared the teachers. We did not upgrade them by first making sure that they are all computer literate. So these are things that we want to do. And my brother, to build our country, we must fix our education system. And Mwai Kibaki did it. And everybody was happy. In a record 3 years, that has been destroyed. And that's what we are saying, we must fix it. And the problem that we have today, as we go for Christmas, parents are crying. Where will they get money to pay school fees in January? And then William Ruto is on top of the violence. Their problem is tribalism. What has tribalism got to do with decapitation? What has it got to do with the payment of the JSS teachers? Let us deal with the real thing. The real thing is that the government has destroyed the education system, and it has undermined great work that was done by Mwai Kibaki and Uhuru Kenyatta. You know, healthcare is another big ticket item that Kenyans are struggling with. SHA, is it working? Is it working? The government says it is working. The church, they have beautiful hospitals, mission hospitals. The PCA church, they have beautiful hospitals. We need to support the church. You know, like now, since NHIF was cut, there were billions of shillings they have never been paid. Most of those hospitals owned by the church are almost collapsing. This is something that we must work on. Again, we must remunerate properly our healthcare providers. We must make sure that the doctors and the nurses and the clinical officers, they deal with human life. People who deal with human life are not your ordinary work. These are people who are dealing with life. These are people who need to be settled. They need to be well taken care of, and we need to have a discussion with them. We need also to expand the universal health coverage so that we make sure that the level 2 hospitals, that those are the dispensaries, and the level 3, the health centers, are properly equipped. You know, my brother, most of these cases that come to level 4 hospitals for admission and level 5, if there was proper intervention at level 1, 2, and 3, they never get to the level 4. You know, but these cases get bigger because they don't get the proper attention. I would like to focus more on level 2. Those are the health centers, and level 3. The level 2 is dispensaries, level 3 are the health centers. I would like to focus more. And then again, the level 4, we make sure they are well equipped. And we go a step further by making sure every level 4 hospital in the country has a ward to deal with rehabilitation of addicts, because we have a serious challenge of drug addiction and alcoholism in this country. And the treatment.
Now, of course, you realize that during this interview, for once, Rigathi Gachagua began to share the agenda indirectly. And this is something I've been asking all along. Why can't the opposition share the agenda? Why are they always serious about blaming the government and not sharing the agenda? It's good that they actually came up to share the agenda. Let me break for some minutes, just about 5 minutes. As I leave this to play, I'm coming back.
Because they were not supposed to allow it. It's embarrassing to the government, because the government is part of that nonsense. And that thing that the president did is very bad for Kenyan Somalis. Our Somalis from Kenya. As it is today, they are having challenges on visa application to go to various destinations in the world, because the world is not sure, you know, whether they are Kenyans or not. And it's very sad, because the Kenyan Somalis are very hardworking people. They are very enterprising businessmen. These are people who should be able to travel all over the world, go to America, go to Britain, go to Canada, and do business. They are people who have contributed immensely to the growth of business in this country. It is very sad if we are profiled for extra surveillance and scrutiny arising from that decision by the president.
It is the extra surveillance and scrutiny that was happening in the country, which is called vetting, and it is that process that many people from these border counties, I included, because I went through the vetting process. Why we went for that. Many say that the vetting process is not fair to the people who are Kenyans, and we need to go through a different exercise as any other Kenyan.
We would rather have extra surveillance at the border to make sure that only Kenyans are registered as Kenyans and foreigners are kept away, other than get our Kenyan Somalis profiled by the international community arising of a decision that cannot be properly justified. We must protect the Kenyan Somalis because they are Kenyans and they have every right to travel all over the world. And it is very sad, out of a decision that was made, that they are being viewed suspiciously. It is not right that our people are being profiled. But having said that, what I would want to do myself, if elected president, the first thing I would do, day one, is recall our police officers from Haiti. They're already home. There's a few. Others are still there. The process is ongoing. Many have lost their lives. Many have come back with injuries. Even when the president said he died, the body has never come home. You know, we must make sure these policemen come here and serve the people of Kenya. How is it that people are being terrorized by criminals in Nkatawasoas when our policemen are in Haiti? Why can they come and first guard the people of Kenya? Number two, we also want to equip our police officers and give them modern equipment to fight modern crime. Train them on cybercrime, make sure that they are properly trained to deal with modern crime as it's happening in the country. Again, these police a lot. This SHA nonsense has really affected them. They used to have a very good insurance cover. And if you talk to the police officers, they are really crying because they are being forced to go to SHA. That is not working. Same with our teachers. You know, we want our policemen to have a very good medical scheme. We want to have a risk allowance for them because most of them suffer in the line of duty. We also want to make sure they are properly remunerated. These men and women in uniform, you know, sacrifice a lot for this country and to make sure that we are all safe. Again, they have no vehicles, you know. You had the other day Mukomen saying that people should give them fuel. That is corruption. Wananchi pay taxes. Why should Wananchi pay taxes that is being stolen by bribing teachers and executives and chiefs, and then you ask them to go and buy fuel? All police stations in Kenya and police posts should have a well-serviced vehicle with enough fuel to enable themselves.
So to talk about matters to do with security, you mentioned that you have seen goons working together with politicians and police. Evidence on that, Mr. GACHAGUA, because at the end of the day, if it's just another statement, it remains being a hearsay without evidence. And even as we talk about security, there is the fact that the Kenyans were abducted in Tanzania. That is a matter to do with foreign affairs and how that was handled. One would ask the question, where does our heart lie when it comes to protecting our own within and without the country, as well as other citizens of other countries? Talk about the Turkish citizens who were abducted in Nairobi and taken back to their country, who are seeking asylum in the country. Where are we in all these situations?
We are doing very badly in matters violation of human rights. You know, there are very many cases of forced abductions, forced disappearances, and extrajudicial killings. No action has been taken. I want to promise the people of Kenya on day one, there is a squad of 101 officers that has been in charge of those abductions. It will be disbanded, and all officers who abducted our children and killed them will be held to account.
They was put there during the time when you deputy.
Yeah, and I complain about it. I complain very bitterly.
I raised the question to the
I raised it publicly in Mombasa for the people of Kenya. I raised it with the president himself in a security meeting. I raised it with him one-to-one, and when he did not heed to what I was asking him to do, I held a press conference and condemned extrajudicial killings and abductions. I still hold that positions that on forming government, abductions must come to an end, extrajudicial killings must come to an end, and all officers who have taken part in abductions and extrajudicial killings will be prosecuted.
Because you're part of the National Security Council, what was the reasoning behind the formation of that force?
Abductions and extrajudicial killings, and I opposed it myself. And when the president did not listen to me, I held a public press conference. It's on record on the 26th of June 2024. It's on record. But that, Mr. GACHAGUA, was way after you had served in government, when you just speak out of the various those issues. Because Mr. GACHAGUA, one would say, at the point when you were giving that statement, it's because you knew that impeachment was not. That was in June. Impeachment was in October. It had reached a stage. I had raised it privately. I had raised it in meetings, and it was still going on. So I made a decision to raise it publicly, and it's on record. And everybody knows I raised it publicly. What I'm saying is, we must make sure when we form government that extrajudicial killings must come to you today.
Guys, do you think Rigathi Gachagua is telling the truth about ending extrajudicial killings and abductions and that kind of process, because you've seen several presidents doing this. We've seen Uganda, Tanzania, and many other countries doing this. Do you think that Gachagua is actually telling us the truth, that when he takes over leadership, or when United Opposition takes over leadership, then they are going to make sure that they are not abducting people and conducting extrajudicial killing, among other vices that we observed in the current situation? Of course, yesterday Winnie talked about this matter, and it is important that people listen. However, many of us don't want to listen. Even when I'm doing this reaction here, people just come about and say their opinion 2 term, 1 term. And that's not my intention. Before we decide whether it's 1 term or 2 term, we must actually do a ground check on what is going on, what we want, and what is the best for us, so that we are not just running into 1 term or 2 term without understanding why or why not. Without understanding what we need and what we have and the messes. That is the reality about life. You have to check, even in your personal life, you have to check about tomorrow, yesterday, and today. You have to see what you have to add, what you have to remove, and how to spice your life in several fronts, whether it's social, political, economic, even spiritual, sexual, and whatever. That's the reality, all right? So when I look at many people talking about this stuff, they just want to thrash matters and run into a conclusion without understanding what is happening. And it's unfortunate that most people have no time to actually do checks on why they are making decisions. And then later on, they'll of course blame or raise alarm. But when they had an opportunity, they never had time to do so. Anyway, let's listen to one more thing. Then we get to listen to the other aspect of Ndindi Nyoro.
Is profit for the government. And the government went through a process for the past 6 months, going through and analyzing, doing research to understand how much that would be. And today, the money that is held at Safaricom, over 240 billion shillings, that the government says this is money lying idle at the NEC. And we can take that money, inject it into development of the country that Kenyans live, because at the end of the day, the Singapore story that President William Ruto speaks about needs this country to march in terms of development. Based off that explanation, why would you oppose the government taking its assets?
Our constitution makes public participation a must when we are dealing with anything that belongs to the public. Have they asked the people of Kenya? No. They are trying to ask now. I saw an advertisement because we have complained. Have they asked the people of Kenya? If you look at this company, since inception, they have paid taxes 1.48 trillion. Since inception, they have paid 550 billion in terms of dividends. When you look at the amount of money they pay every year, yeah? What is it? Because we have no food here in this house. I sell my household items here, and then I buy food. Then after I finish the food, what happens? When you look at the dividends that they pay to the government, when you look at that amount, where will it be coming from?
The dividend that we talk about is around 16 billion annually every year. But even when we talk about public participation, there is a process under law, especially because when you talk about matters transaction, there is a process that guides the same. As we speak right now, Kenyans have been asked to go. A decision has already been given an opportunity to lend their voices on the sale of these shares that we are talking about. The government of Kenya has not decided it is selling. If Kenyans say no, it will not be sold. Instead, let me explain. Participate in this public participation.
You don't say you are selling this and even the amount before the people of Kenya can tell you to sell. You first say we want to sell. Then when you are given the go-ahead by the people of Kenya to sell, then you start the process. But we have already completed the process, agreed we are selling to who, at how much, then they are coming to the people of Kenya. And then they are coming through Parliament. Parliament is an appendage of William Ruto. You can tell how it will go. There is no public participation. It's an exercise in futility. It's a fake accompany. It is simply formalizing what has already been decided. But the question we are saying, Why don't you ask the people of Kenya whether you need to sell Safaricom?
All right, guys, that was the question on Safaricom company. Now, based on the benefits, or rather, we can call it what, on what the government makes in terms of the dividends and all that. Do you believe that Safaricom has to be sold or not? And I don't know whether the public are aware that they are supposed to give this response to the government so that they decide the way forward. It's coming out more like an after decision making process. And we don't know whether this is supposed to be a reality check or whether it's just something to cover up for the bone of contention that has been raised. Anyway, let's check with GACHAGUA again in the speech he raised in Murang'a before we can get to something else here.
When wamefika hapa na wametoa testimony, everybody has spoken. Lakini sisi tu ni kukupatia nguvu. What God has decided, we cannot change it. Ona kulito hetio ugo gaya sana. Kwa sababu ya hii mlima Kenya. Najua hii mlima iko na kula milioni 6. Na vile ninaona itaenda milioni 8. Na hii kura imeamua. Haijaamua itachagua nani, lakini imeamua na nani itafukuza. Sindio? Ruto is cornered. From the mountain, from Lower Eastern, from Western, Nairobi, Coast, he is cornered. Amejipata bahali Moi alijipata 1992. Moi had been cornered in 1992. Lakini akakuwa mjanja sana. Na sisi hatukuwa tumerevuka. Akakuja hapa mlimani. Hii kura ya mlima ilikuwa imemkataa yote vile imekataa William Ruto leo. Akapanga jama, akajua ndio nipite, lazima nigawanya hii mlima. Lazima nifanye kila kitu nigawanya hii mlima. Akafanya yake na wazee na nani na intelligence. Matiba akasimama. Akapata watu yote ya Murang'a, Kiambu, Nairobi na Nakuru. Kibaki akasimama, akapata kura ya Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Laikipia, Meru and Embu. Jaramogi akasimama, akapata ya Nyanza. Matiba akapata 1.4 million. Kibaki akapata 1 million. Jaramogi akapata 900,000. Ukijumulisha yote 3.3 million. Moi akapata 1.9, akawashinda wote. That is what happened. Hatu kuerevuka. Sasa kutoka hapo ndio wazee waliketi na watu ya kanisa wakasema hapana, sisi ni wajinga. We are the majority, lakini tunagawanya. So 202 tukasema hakuna kugawanya. Watu wote wakakuja pamoja. What is happening today? William Ruto na watu yake wanasema the only way they can have a chance ya kujaribu ni kugawanya hii kura ya mlima Kenya. Isipogawanyika hata hakuna haja ya kusimama. Kwa sababu hii milioni 7 ikiwekwa ya Ukambani milioni 3, ya Western milioni 4, ya Coast milioni 2, si ameenda nyumbani? So ile kazi yako naye ni vile atakawanya hii mlima. Na ile mtu nazuia yeye kugawanya hii mlima ni kamuti hapa wa Munyoro kanaitwa Rigiji. Sasa hii mtu lazima awelekezwe makobora na fitina ati ni mukabila. The problem of Kenya is not tribalism. The problem of Kenya is theft of public resources, misappropriation of public funds, violation of human rights, killing of Gen Zs, selling of public assets. Lakini Ruto ana shift narrative ati shida ya Kenya na ukabila.
So guys, do you agree with GACHAGUA when he says that the problem of Kenya is not tribalism, but those things he has listed, including theft, violation of human rights, extrajudicial killing, abduction of young people, and misappropriation of public resources. Do you agree? Because that is now the narrative actually Rigathi is trying to sell, indicating that while the president will continue to fool the citizens and indicate a different problem, the real problem is not what he's sharing. Now, meanwhile, of course, Kurio has been pointed out as one of the divide and rule aspect that Ruto is trying to use, and also Kimani Ichung'wah, among others. Do you also agree that this divide and rule is the game that Ruto is trying to use? And of course, on the other end, people believe that Kalonzo Musyoka, who has been endorsed by a variety of people, should actually be thinking of picking Ndindi Nyoro as the running mate. I don't know. And what they are trying to say is that Ndindi Nyoro is an economist just like Kibaki was, and can help a lot in enhancing this country because he has money, a lot of money, of course, and also recently he did a master's in economics and knows a lot about numbers, something that Kenyans want to hear about, compared to maybe if we could pick Wetangula, or not Wetangula actually, but Eugene Wamalwa, or Natembea, who is much into law. Nobody currently is fighting so much for law. Many people are crowned down by the aspect of economics, and therefore they want someone who can understand numbers and work up their numbers. Let's just see into the analysis of David Wafula partly.
We have come to learn
and see what we can.
Picking Ndindi Nyoro as his running mate is financial. Let's get after it. Now, the first advantage of Kalonzo picking Ndindi Nyoro as his running mate is financial firepower. Ndindi Nyoro, unknown to many, is actually a billionaire, and as young as he is, he has more money than Kalonzo Musyoka and all the governors of Ukambani. So that's a big advantage right there, especially since last time I saw Kalonzo Musyoka in a presidential campaign, he was holding a pay bill sababu ya kukosa pesa. In fact, here's the image. So if Kalonzo wants to stay afloat, pick the money man. People who have money know people who have money. If Ndindi Nyoro is the one to call a fundraiser for Kalonzo Musyoka, he will raise billions. If George Natembeya is the one to call a fundraiser for Kalonzo Musyoka, I don't think he'll leave that room with even 100 million shillings. Again, people with money know people with money. So if Kalonzo wants to get his money right in 2027 as Sitoe Jasho Sana, he knows who to pick. Second advantage for Kalonzo picking Ndindi Nyoro as his deputy is that with Didi by his side, Kalonzo will not have to seek services of economic brokers like David Ndi, because Ndindi Nyoro in and of himself is an economic guru. He served as the chairman of the budget committee. He also recently graduated with a master's in economics from the University of Nairobi. Now, you do the math, that's an important brain to have in one's kitchen cabinet. I will even dare say that in a deputy presidential debate between Ndindi Nyoro and Professor Kithure Kindiki, Ndindi Nyoro would carry the day. Because Kindiki is a lawman. He understands legal jargon. Ndindi Nyoro is an economist, just like Moi Kibaki. He understands numbers. Of those two things, which do you think Kenyans are more interested in listening to? Kenyans want to hear numbers, because that is tangible.
Okay, guys, so that's an analysis by David Wafula, and to some extent, I actually agree. The political situation at any point in a country is supposed to be strategic. It's not just about arguments. It's not about verbal ability. Of course, verbal, charismatic aspect is very necessary for any politician. But at the same time, away from having that political charisma to verbally communicate what you want to say, you need to understand the mathematics around the people will be surrounding you. Of course, if you are surrounded by people who will be actually fulfilling that, because I think that Kenyans are getting to a level where they are going to analyze more than just how we have been doing. They are not going to trust only what we say, but how we are going to gain what we have to. And I would wish that Kenyans should get to that level, because once we begin now checking the people we are selecting and looking into how they are going to achieve our mission, looking at their abilities, their skills and all that, then we are headed to the right direction. Kibaki was an economist, and actually he moved this country from point 1 to point 2 above. But now the rest of the time we have just been picking people carelessly, and we've had a problem in the economy of this country going down every time. And even though these people will never come out and testify the reality about the downfall of our nation, this is happening because when you begin bribing so much to a level that you are actually mutilating the law, you are bribing, giving gifts in terms of money, and you are using money in that is the treasury. Remember, recently we got a report about the State House having used almost 80% of their money, and I was so surprised because personally, as an individual, when I get money, I have to plan for it. I can't spend all my money within the first days of my month when there is 20 days ahead of me. So whenever I get money, I have to plan, see what to cover, what are mandatory, I have to cover it. While those which are optional, I can let them be and talk about them later. So that is all about the Ndindi Nyoro aspect. We still have something else to cover here. And possibly there was this story that is coming from this guy, this prophecy. And sometimes I don't like listening to that prophecy that is always shared by Ndura Wariunge. But anyway, it doesn't harm to do. Let's just listen to what he's saying right here.
Orengo will bring together all those people who are fought, who are thrown out. Today, a lot with Wamunyoro. There are places, yes, you want to be associated with him because if they get away from the fire, you might be cold. So what they keep the distance. They keep working with you, but from a distance because they have seen you are not a team player. Wamunyoro is not a team player. He's an administrator, trained administrator. Administrators, they don't work as team players. They're just like in Atembea. He's not a team player. He's an administrator. They use the power they think they have to intimidate people, just as they were doing when they were DOs, when they were special branch, because both of them, they were special branches. They're the ones who used to operate from Nyayo House and Nyati House. So that thing, the special DO that was Wamunyoro and the special administrator that was Natembea, you can see what they have. They are the intelligence consumer. They consume raw intelligence because the people in the intelligence, the people in the police, the people in the army, most of them, they got to power through them. So they are still loyal to them. So they know how to consume intelligence, but they don't know how to do politics or political operations. They know how to push things to work using force, but they don't know how to persuade things to work. They know how to fight to scatter people, but they don't know how to work as a team because the mentality that is in them is an administrator mentality, and an administrator mentality is that which you use law to subject people into it and follow it. But in politics, you have to chase a game. Your enemy that was yesterday, when they chase a game the way Uhuru is doing now. Uhuru knows how the painful road that Wamunyoro took them through. But he is able to go down and bring these people together. The person now to watch, there are two people to watch in this country from now back at 2027. In fact, there are three people. One is Uhuru Kenyatta. He's a person that we must watch. I don't want to call him a kingpin, but a man to watch because he is capable of bringing all politicians together, including RUTO. He can bring him on board. Uhuru can do that. Number two, the one that will carry major say in Lowland, it is not Oburu, nor Winnie Odinga. It will be Mama Ida. Mama Ida will be able to pull strings. And if you can look at her, she has not gone the Oburu way. She has not gone, and she's not interested in a national party, ODM that is national. She will be interested in galvanizing the Luo votes together and the Luo people together. Who is she going to use? She will use Orengo. And this is the time for Orengo now to rise. In the absence of Raila, the most senior-most member of parliament or politician in the Luo land is Orengo. Orengo will be able to bring together Kidero. Orengo will bring together all those people who were fought, who were thrown out during when Raila was out, was the leader. And these people are moneyed. People like Kidero is moneyed. People, when they see Kidero had a candidate in where he had an election, we
have Kasipul.
He had number 2 was Kidero's candidate. He was testing waters. These people will form a formation in Lowland that will birth a new direction, and they will be supported by Ida. They will not be supported by Uburu. Uburu is a sellout. People like before the end of this year, there will be something that will be launched by Orengo in Nyanza, in Lowland. They will do, and most politicians like you, the SG, Sifuna, people like Babu, people like many people, the politicians like Nyang Nyong, they will launch themselves before the end of this year. They will launch themselves, and then they will project themselves. If you don't talk to us, you are not going to get the Lowland. They are going to get out of ODM cocoon.
All right, that I agree, because I saw clearly that ODM is not as it is, and they are lacking direction because Oburu Odinga is actually not very sure about what he wants. Today he says they are in broad-based until 2027. The other day he says ODM is a party on its own. So I really agree fully with what Warungi is actually proposing for today. And I feel that really I've been seeing that Mama Ida is trying all her ways to make sure that she's neutral, as a strategy to listen to the ground and see what people want. Meanwhile, I wanted to talk about Tanzania and what Pierre Lumumba actually has said something about Mama Suluhu. So let me just check on that. He was kind of defending Suluhu and saying that America should not be frustrating them. So let's just look at that. Of course, I'm not saying that he is defending in terms of what Suluhu has failed to do, but let's just check on something here. Of course, he was talking about the fact that Suluhu must get away to actually heal the people of Tanzania, but at the same time, there is something else he said. I'm just checking into... and he had already said that if Tanzania doesn't listen to the cry of the people, then there'll be a fall of Tanzania. But at the same time, he was saying that America should not be intimidating Tanzania. It should give them space to actually show themselves, show up for the day. And I don't know what you think about this. Let's just check on this.
If I was asked by the government of the Republic of Tanzania, led by CCM, please advise us, this is what I would tell them. Number 1, call a meeting presided by SAMIA Suluhu Hassan of all registered political parties in Tanzania. All of them. Once you've called that meeting, call a meeting of all active and legitimate civil society organizations in Tanzania. A meeting with them. Call a meeting of all organized religious societies in Tanzania. Have a meeting with them. Once you have done so, release anybody who has been arrested on politically related charges. If I was asked by the government of the Republic of Tanzania, led by CCM, please advise us. This is what I would tell them.
That is the say by Pierre Lumumba. I don't know what you think about it, but I think the same. I actually feel like Samia Suluhu should not be ignoring the people of Tanzania as she is doing. Instead, she should be able to give them a hearing and also give a second chance to Tanzanians. And that is why I was so much against this aspect of Samia Suluhu actually putting the citizens indoors on Independence Day. That was a day that is just supposed to come out of the streets and address the matter of Tanzania. Tell them that even though this has happened, we can heal, we can get to move ahead. And I just want to look at this. Let's look at more at this discussion right here.
Suluhu Hassan, whom I know and respect, will have it very difficult to even travel to Tanzania. It will not be easy. in the history of any country, whenever there has been death, it is never the same again. The age of innocence is gone. In this day and age, she will have no shortage of advisors to kumwambia mama, hao ni wababaishaji tu, hao ni wahuni tu, wanafiki tu. They'll tell her. Na hao wengine ambao wanakuambia, wanakupa ushauri tofauti, ushauri mbadala, ni wababaishaji tu, si ni Wakenya tu.
We get to a point, and it's very interesting. You give live scenarios that we're experiencing now, but then on the other hand, you look at it when our citizens,
and whether you disagreed with them or not, they occupied those positions with dignity, and they were heard and they were respected. I'm nostalgic about those days. But today, and I know, and I am involved in a number of cases of Kenyans who are outside and are suffering outside of the Republic of Kenya, and you ask for assistance, not even an acknowledgement letter is written to you.
we've even lost citizens in Tanzania. Congratulations, and yet people are dying. They said nothing about it.
Because they mean well, even when it does not appear as if they do.
Do you think she means well? Because you're saying they ought to have had conversations before.
Yes.
But just the other day, the deputy party leader of Chadema had been arrested again, I think on Monday, Tuesday. John Hedge, and released. When they were released, they were asked what happened. They were saying they didn't even question us. There was nothing major. So when you look at it, how is this presidency, this term, going to be like for her?
In my view, if it continues in this way, it's going to be very painful. Because when you are in a space where you are not engaging those who you consider to be your opponents, your political opponents are not your enemies. You are all talking about the same country, just the perspective. Some people think the country should be run this way in matters agriculture, in matters health, but otherwise you are working towards the benefit of the same country. But if you consider your political opponents as your mortal enemies, then you end up being paranoid. You see enemies emerging from every corner, even when they are not there. You begin to have enemies, real and imagined. And when you are in that space, then you are in a very dangerous space. And that is why it is incumbent upon those who mean well for these conversations to begin in earnest. In this country, to our credit, whenever we have found ourselves in such situations, whenever we were on the brink, we have had these painful conversations. In 2007, 2008, the country was on the brink, and we had painful conversations. We made painful decisions. We created offices that were not necessary, sometimes just to massage people's egos in order to calm the temperatures and protect the country. Sometimes it becomes necessary.
All right, guys, that is Pierre Lumumba. Pierre Lumumba feels like Samia Suluhu should actually just take a painful decision to collaborate with the opposition, especially Chadema and other strong parties, so that they can run the country, since the innocence was lost after the death of citizens in Tanzania. Automatically, the advisors will tell Samia to just keep it chill and blame the foreigners, blame Kenya, blame the young people who are actually not aware of what they were doing. But the reality is actually different. You can't say that Tanzanians are totally unaware of the circumstances that are happening in Tanzania. And therefore, it is wrong for Samia to make an assumption that all that happened was out of blues, and that she is safe in her leadership. She can do whatever she wants as long as the army is behind her. It's unfortunate because what happens now, the growth of Tanzania strongly depends on the choices that Samia has to make. And if she makes wrong choices, then Tanzania is going to end up in the drains, if I may say. I may actually understand that it's not a very good front to take for Samia. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'm coming to an end of our political reaction of the day. Later on, I'll get time to do a social reaction, and then I'll go to Live Saga TV and do another political reaction. Thank you so much. Subscribe to the channel and keep dropping comments, share my videos. Bye-bye.